why homeless people? Why homeless people? Of all the types of people you could work with, why homeless people? I have to credit my dad for that. During the Depression, my father had no job. He rode trains all around the country looking for work, sleeping in, quote, hobo jungles. He told me about one train ride where they came from Portland down to Sacramento, and it was freezing cold. They got themselves in, he and his buddy got themselves into an ice car and hid in the ice car, and knowing that if the train stopped somewhere and they were in the ice car, tons of ice was going to come down on them and they'd be crushed to death. So he also told me about going up to people's houses, knocking on the back door, saying, can I have any scraps, any food? I felt an obligation toward homeless people.
It's so interesting you're asking me this, because right now I have a first grader, and he was recently asked what he wanted to do with his life. And it triggered a history when I was young, when I was asked by a teacher in first grade what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I said I wanted to save homeless people. And the teacher laughed at me. And they told me that wasn't a job, and there's no way to save homeless people. So I became an attorney because I felt like money shouldn't buy you justice. And I felt it was a way to impact the homeless community. And I felt it was a way to empower people. And that's why I'm a public defender. Yeah, but you know what? All it takes is one, right? We may not be able to go in and save the homeless crisis. We may not be able to go in and save thousands of people at one time, but we can make a difference of one life, one day at a time.
That's right.
And as long as you take the moment to embrace that, you can propel forward.
So, I mean, growing up in Los Angeles, it's, you know, there has been a housing crisis in Los Angeles since, I can't remember. And growing up as a low-income child in that environment, we moved over 7 times. Never once was it because we wanted to move. Because of this housing crisis, rent went up. We don't know what to do. Can't pay for it, and we have to move. Landlord wasn't fixing things, and we asked him to. They don't want to. Thought we were a problem. We have to. So throughout that time, we met lawyers, right, like legal aid attorneys in Los Angeles, or pro bono attorneys, that would give us advice of what to do and how to act and how to protect ourselves. We don't. A lot of times it's just self-help, but you know, once in a while, someone who represent us, help us with our legal issues, and that access, that ability to go to court, that ability to kind of like fight for what we think is right and how we should be treated this way. Even though I was never involved directly because I was a minor, it has a very transformative effect on my uncle, who was able to fight for us, get us housed in a place where there's stability for a couple more months, sometimes for a couple more years, and it allowed us to go to school without jumping around through necessity. So a lot of that was very important, right? So that's a lot of why I want to be a lawyer. It's that access, it's empowerment for people who don't have the income, and I don't believe that only people with money or who can pay for a lawyer deserves the protection of the laws.